And it's not about workers. This is about, as I say, power and control.
Darren, what do you think about what's going on recently? You hear a lot about people being able to go to their work, being unable to go outside. It's like we're back in lockdown again. Do you think these people are working on the tube, on the trains? Do you think they should be striking? And do you think it's fair for the rest of the country?
I was thinking about this this morning because my mother, funnily enough, was just asked for her views via a vox pop, with someone with a microphone from a news channel asking her for her view. And she's a woman that makes little over minimum wage, right? It's a tough old job she does, working with kids. Now, Jess, she's not seen any pay rise that's keeping up with inflation, right? She's among some of the least well-off people in Britain, in the northeast. And I was thinking about this in the context of a train driver, right? You're talking, what, maybe 60 grand? It's more than a nurse. For pressing a button, Jess? And I think they're making the strongest case, the best representation that any hardline Thatcherite pro-privatisation Tory MP could ever possibly hope to make for the automation of the entire network, right? For actually taking the train network and modernising it to such an extent where these things can drive themselves. And you've got to think, if something can drive itself, Jess, it cannot be that hard. So I'm just thinking, this has got to be about something else. And I think what it is about control. I think it's about saying, well, we've seen over the last 4 elections now that the Labour Party can't win. The Labour Party know that they can't win without Scotland, right? They're not going to win Scotland anytime soon. The SNP still very much have Scotland in a chokehold of their yellow separatist nonsense. So you consider all of that, and I think that this is again, it goes back to that point I just made earlier. It's about these hard left, anti-democratic trade unions seeking to actually control the voters of this country because they know they can't win. They can't win them. Their man, their ultimate man, their prized possession in that commie Jezza Corbyn, they couldn't win with him. So now they say, well, let's choke off the country's rail network, right? The economy will suffer. Working people will suffer. So much will suffer. Kids doing their exams, Jess, they will suffer. Who wins? Well, not the Conservative government. So it's that manipulation of a really important economic network. This is the biggest strike since Margaret Thatcher was in power. It's an attempt to overturn a democratically elected government. It's about power and it's about control. And I think it's wrong. I have absolutely no time for it whatsoever, Jess. And I know that puts me against public opinion. A Comres poll out today showed that actually a majority of Brits support the strikes. I think that's fundamentally mistaken. If rail workers get 11%, which is inflation right now, people are struggling. If they get an 11% pay increase, we'll have to give everyone else an 11% pay increase. Jess, what does that end up doing? Well, basic economics suggests that actually you do that, all you end up doing is exacerbating inflation. You make things worse, right? So you've got to do it again. Pay continues to be outstripped by inflation until you get control of the money supply, right? Until interest rates go up, so people's mortgages start to become really hard. Debt repayment becomes really hard. You can't do it. So it would be a fool's errand. It's hard, but I'm afraid, this is what happens, just dare I say it, when you lock down an entire economy for 2 years, on and off, more times than a light switch. This is what happens. Spending money like it's coming out of a tree somewhere in the Treasury, number 11 Downing Street. It's not. You know it, I know it, and deep down I think most people know it, Jess.
I think this just shows the reality of socialist ideology, because socialism involves putting the worker first, but socialists don't understand that every worker is also a consumer. And if you look at what's happening now, people who rely on the trains, rely on the tube, aren't able to get that service. And so they're worse off. It's not really pro worker in that sense, because what about all the other jobs? And it's interesting looking at the Labour Party right now. You have got the Corbynites, but Keir Starmer seems to be not really on the side of the people on strike. Why do you think that is?
Well, on the first point, the pro-worker slant, I've never heard, frankly, so much bollocks in all my life, if I'm allowed to use such language on this channel. I really, really find it baffling that someone like the leaders of these trade unions, with their lovely homes, massive mortgages, really nice salaries, how they can turn to someone like my mother and say, you know, we're doing this for you. She doesn't work in the real network, right? She's not going to get a pay rise. She struggles to put food on the table, to pay the heating bill. And you look at the inherent hypocrisy with that, whilst they're living a life of Riley, right? And it's not about workers. This is about, as I say, power and control, right? They are using working class people as pawns in their scheme to overturn a democratically elected government. That's what this is. And Sir Keir Starmer, who must have so many splinters, Jess, from sitting on his bottom on the fence, on the middle of every issue, he must be very uncomfortable. God knows what he's like getting into bed with his wife on a night, because he takes both sides, right? He's saying, oh, well, you know, we should, of course, pay workers more. Time for them to get round the table. And then his Labour MPs, you've got Richard Berger, or whatever his name is. How that MP got into Cambridge University, I've got no idea. It says something about our purportedly august institutions, if someone like that thick, frankly, could get in to university as big as that. But people like him, standing with those picketing, saying he's standing up for the workers. What workers? Just as far as I can tell, the workers are the ones not able to get into their offices. The kids are the ones wanting to work on their exams, unable to get to school. They're not standing for the people of this country. They're standing for power and for control. I don't think that can be said enough.